Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're making tiramisu, the easy version. And what I mean by easy version, it's because we're going to use store-bought Ladyfingers. And later on in another recipe, I'll show you how to make Ladyfingers from scratch. But for the purpose of this video, I just wanted to start with something simple and using store-bought Ladyfingers. If we were to make the whole recipe from scratch, it would take probably 2 hours, but 90% of the work is actually goes into making those little cookies. And so if you buy them in the store, and I have to admit I'm guilty 90% of the time, when I make tiramisu, I actually buy those because it's much more convenient if you're invited to a party or something. So that being said, so tiramisu is going to consist of eggs, mascarpone cream, vanilla, coffee, Ladyfingers, with a little bit of Amaretto for flavor, and sugar, of course. So I would recommend starting with the coffee. So this is just instant coffee. You can have an espresso in there if you want, if you like it stronger. And then we're going to add a little bit of Amaretto for flavor. This is an almond-based alcohol, so a dash of Amaretto, or maybe 2. I mean, it depends if it's for kids or for adults. Yes, like 1 big dash of Amaretto. And the reason why I prepare this first is because I want to give coffee the time to cool down. So basically, I'm going to mix that in, make sure that the alcohol is fully incorporated, and then I'm going to pour the coffee into this plate to make sure that it actually cools down, because when we're going to soak the Ladyfingers in it, if it's too hot, the Ladyfingers are just going to melt, and we don't want that. We just want cold coffee. There we go. So we have our coffee, and we're going to let it cool down on the side. Now, next up, you need 2 mixing bowls, 1 to whip the egg whites and 1 for the egg yolks and the sugar, a hand mixer with the whisk attachments. I highly recommend, first of all, like getting one if you don't have one, but I highly recommend actually using a hand mixer for this rather than a stand mixer, because it's not, these are like, it's a fairly small batch, only 3 eggs, and sometimes on a stand mixer the whisk cannot go all the way down to the bottom of your bowl. So for this, we're just going to use a hand mixer. So first step, we're gonna separate the yolks and the whites. Right, I'm gonna put the whites in a smaller one to make it easier to whip. Right. That's one. That's 2. It's very important to make sure that there is no egg yolk at all in the whites. Otherwise, it's very hard to whip properly. But if there's a little bit of egg white in the yolk, that's not a problem. The other way around is not a problem. There we go. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. All right. Next up, and before I get started, I'm going to weigh the sugar, and you're going to need 60 grams of sugar for this. There we go. If you like it sweeter, you can add a little bit more. I usually cut sugar quite a bit in my recipes, so I recommend starting with what I suggest here and then adjust depending on what you need or your taste. And that's the only thing that we're gonna have to weigh, and everything else is already taken care of. So always start with whisking the egg whites, because you don't want to have egg yolks or cream on your whisk, and that saves some time on cleanup. It shouldn't take very long, and it's very quick. You can start small, like a low speed, to make sure you have small bubbles. Smaller bubbles make for a more stable egg white. And it shouldn't take very long, like maybe just 60 or 90 seconds at the most. And make sure you go all the way down to the bottom. We're at 40 seconds, about half speed. Now you can increase the speed a little bit. There we go. And now we're getting there. All right, that was a full minute. And now you can see the texture. So the test to check whether your egg whites are ready is just to flip the mixing bowl upside down, and if it sticks at the, like, this is not a magic trick, it's still in there, right? Flip it around. That means it's ready. There's no more liquid at the bottom. So we can set that aside for a minute. I'm going to put it here. And now we're going to prepare the second part. So the second part, we start with the egg yolks. We add the sugar, all of it. And then we're going to add a little bit of vanilla after we start the creaming process. So no need to wash the whisks. We can just go right ahead. All right, so after just a couple of seconds, I just want to show, I don't know if it's gonna look good on camera, but this is very bright yellow, right? And so after you whisk it well, you're gonna see it should turn much whiter. There we go. That was a minute as well, and you see it's much more white. It means all the sugar is dissolved, and it should feel like very, very creamy, right? So that is step 2. Now we can add our vanilla powder. So it's based on your taste, but just a little bit. At the bottom, there we go. I was a little bit heavy-handed here, but hey, vanilla is good. We're gonna mix that in, 2 seconds. There we go. And now we're gonna add mascarpone. So a quick word on mascarpone. I tried a lot of different recipes, and this one is the one I prefer because it's a little bit creamier, has less moisture content. I tried the Whole Food brand and some others, and if you use different types of mascarpone, you'll get different types of humidity content and different types of texture eventually. So depending on how you like your tiramisu, if you like it creamier or a little bit more runny or a little bit more set, you can either experiment with different brands to see which one gives you the texture that you're looking for, or change the ratio of cream to eggs, for instance. Now, just grab everything, pour it in there, into the egg yolks with the sugar. There we go. Make sure you grab everything from the container. Use your whisk to grab the last pieces. And now we're gonna mix the eggs and the cream together. Just 30 seconds. You don't need more than that. You're just trying to blend everything together. Not really, we're not whipping anything here. Just making the mixture well blended and very, very creamy. There we go. Now we're done with the hand mixer. And the next step, we will simply mix the two together. Basically the mascarpone cream with the egg yolks and the egg whites together. So this is where we need to be like very gentle, and we can't use the hand mixer for this because we have on one hand like one part that is very heavy and creamy, right? And the other part is quite fragile, and we need to keep that foamy texture. So we usually do it in 3/3. So you grab 1/3 of your egg whites and you gently fold what we say we fold it. So you go down to the bottom, grab some cream and fold it on top of the egg whites like this. And make sure that there's no pockets of unmixed egg whites before you add the second third and the final third. There you go. Go all the way to the bottom, turn it around, bottom, there we go. There's no more egg whites, and it's getting better and better. So I'm gonna add the second third. Do the same thing. Don't mix it in like very quickly. Don't use a whisk. Really use a spatula. Go down to the bottom of the bowl and then fold it. You fold it. You fold it. scrape the sides, make sure you get all the cream. You can break apart the whites to make sure it's fully mixed in. And you see the texture is slowly changing. So we're keeping the bubbles in. I think we're ready for the last part. So make sure you grab everything from the bowl. And we're going to do the final fold. So as you've probably noticed by now, we are not going to cook this. So eggs, maybe people don't realize what tiramisu is, but it's basically just raw eggs, sugar, and cream. This is not a dessert that is actually cooked, except for the Ladyfingers beforehand, but which is why tiramisu is one of the few dessert where I actually exclusively use organic eggs and fresh that I just bought at the market today, just for peace of mind, because they're actually raw egg. Now, as you can see, I have my final texture here. Everything is mixed in. There's no more egg whites. And if I get closer, you probably can see all the vanilla seeds in there. That's one of the big difference between like using vanilla powder and like an extract or anything else. I mean, this is gorgeous. There we go. So now my cream is actually ready. I can do the final step, which is just get everything put together. I'm going to set that aside. So I recommend getting a small dish. This is just a glass container, and we're going to lay down some Ladyfingers, adding like a layer of Ladyfingers, a layer of cream, and then some chocolate powder, and then another layer of Ladyfingers, chocolate, cream and chocolate. And there we go. So let's start by using a glove. All right. I'm going to grab one of these. So you grab the Ladyfingers. By now the coffee is probably cold, which is what we're looking for. And it's really just 1-2 seconds on each side, and then you should be good to go. So one, and that's it. And then down at the bottom. One. If you let it soak too long, especially if the coffee is too hot, they're gonna melt in your hands. That's not what you're looking for. One, done. Now at this point, if you think you've been too quick and they're not soaked enough, they're going to be too crunchy at the bottom and not very soft, you can always take a spoon and grab a few, grab some coffee and then add it on top like this. If you think you need to be soaked a little bit more. So don't pick them back up, because at this point they're already too soft, and then you can pick them back up. you go. There's enough in my container here. I have enough room for 7, and that's going to be good enough. Now, I have only enough cream for 2 layers. So basically, I'm going to put half of the cream that I've made inside of this. I'm going to try to, I'm right-handed, but I'm going to do left-handed for you guys. There we go. I'm going to pour about half of the cream. And there we go. And use an angled spatula to make sure it goes all the way to the bottom. And that it's perfectly flat. There we go. This middle layer doesn't have to be very, very flat because it's hidden anyway, but try to be as precise as you can. There we go. Next, we're going to add some unsweetened cocoa powder, dark unsweetened chocolate. There's enough sugar already, so you don't need to add more with the chocolate. And this is like a dispenser with a very, very fine mesh on top to prevent clumps. Everything there. Don't overdo it. It's very, like, unsweetened 100% cocoa powder is very, very strong. I recommend Valrhona or Barry chocolate powder if you can. There we go. That's for the first layer. And then we can go for a second. Another layer. Now, if you make your own Ladyfingers, you can either go with the same shape as you can see here, but quite frankly, if you're making tiramisu, they don't need to be to have this size. You can, if you make your own cookies, you can actually make entire sheets of Ladyfingers, like the exact same dough, and you can make squares or whatever the shape of your dish is to exactly fit the size of your dish. You don't need to have individual cookies. These are sold as individual cookies because they're also meant, I mean, designed to be eaten as is, but they don't have to be individual cookies. You can have any kind of shape you want. There we go, 4, and I know that I'm going to need 3 more to finish it. There we go. 1, 2, 3. That's it, right? Final layer. I'm going to push all the others. There you go. So second layer. If you want, you can be more creative and use different types of cookies in the middle layer. Some people use speculoos if you like cinnamon, or butter cookies, and so on and so forth. But in our case, we're just going to go with the traditional classic Ladyfinger recipe here. All right. Okay, guys. And then you put the second part of your cream mixture on top. this is for the chef or the kids. Use your spatula again. Push everything inside. There we go. And this is exactly the right amount. So if you happen to have those Snapware glass containers from Costco, well, this is it. This is exact quantity for one of the big rectangular container. There we go. So, final step. This, unfortunately, is not ready to eat yet. It's gonna have to spend a night in the fridge to make sure that cream actually sets. And before serving, we're gonna add another layer of chocolate tomorrow on top. Do not add the chocolate now, the final layer of chocolate, otherwise the chocolate powder is gonna become mushy and get absorbed by the cream. So what you do instead, you just grab your lid, like we did for the crepes, protect the cream, put this in the fridge overnight, and then you should be ready to go. I'll see you tomorrow. And by the way, before we go, I look at the video timer and we are at 27 minutes. So this is something, as I mentioned, that is very easy to make if you have all the ingredients. If you don't make your own ladyfingers, you can make this dessert in less than 30 minutes. So highly recommend it, and see you tomorrow for the degustation. Final step for the tiramisu. So it's been resting in the fridge overnight. And now we're just going to add the final layer of chocolate powder and cut it. That's it. That's nothing more. This can comfortably serve like maybe 6 to 8 people. And we're gonna see how it looks like after I cut it. So just light powder all the way across, and then depends on how you like it. You might want to add more, but don't overdo it. What you can do as well is, if you want, is actually serve the tiramisu on a plate and then add the chocolate powder directly on top. So that's it. This is our tiramisu. I'm going to quickly cut this a small piece. The first part that you're going to take out is always the trickier. So I'm just going to cut into here. And then a small piece there. There we go. Now I'll grab maybe this. And try to use another one. There we go. I'm going to set this aside and show you how it looks like inside. There. 2 layers of ladyfingers and cream inside. And it's fully set now. It's fully set, but very, very, very creamy still. Now at this point, after you eat the tiramisu, you can decide whether the ladyfinger layer is moist enough for you. And if it's still too dry, then you'll know next time to add more coffee to this layer. But it looks like it's just the right texture at the moment. Let's see how it looks like here. There we go. Beautiful. Creamy, sweet, and a little bit of bitterness with the chocolate and the coffee. Oh, you see the coffee oozing out. That's good. This is amazing. I mean, you've seen how simple it is to make. I'm willing to bet that if you make this, everybody's gonna tell you this is the best they've ever had. No joke. Definitely better than most tiramisu you can find in restaurants around town. Like, that's no contest. That's it. I'm gonna finish this off screen, and I'll see you next time.